I'll seek you out, flay you alive.
Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of BanManagement. In this episode, we are going to implement the key security system that I mentioned in past videos. We're actually going to do it this time. So what's going to happen is if we take a look at our API, api.php file, you'll see it says up here, define key to be key in capital letters. It says to do make key customizable. What we're going to do is we're going to make this only work if the server's key matches the website's key matches the Minecraft server's key. So what will happen is you'll create a key. It can be whatever you want, any word or phrase or combination of letters and numbers, anything that you want. And it will be defined on the website in a specific place, and I'm going to show you guys where that is. And what's going to happen is the key will be read in. So every time if we look at our ad right here, like this, if we don't have post key set and if the key is not equal to the correct key, then it'll say incorrect key. And that's really important because if we didn't have this, for example, one Minecraft server could run the program, and then when they go to set it up in the configuration, they could write the web address of another website that's running BanManagement, and then they would have full access to ban and unban through the in-game if they really wanted to. And that's a huge security flaw. So what will happen is someone who's using BanManagement will come up with some kind of key. They'll put the key on the website, and then they will also put the key in the configuration of the Minecraft server. So there will be no way for the key to be seen by anyone, but we'll make sure that the correct key is typed in, or else none of the functions will work. Add, get, and remove will not work. So let's go ahead and do this. What we're going to do on the website to allow the key to be set up is we're going to put it in a file and then read the file contents and then set that to be the key. I suppose you could have someone define it here, right here, type in whatever they want for the key. But there is, of course, a chance that if the PHP interpreter fails, that all of this source code could be revealed, and that wouldn't be good. They would be able to know what your key is. So we're just going to make it really easy. We're going to have them, we're going to store the key inside of a file and just read in the file. Now something very important. I have open right here the HTML folder. This has everything, the API folder, of course the index, all of that stuff. So this is the web server. I'm just connected to it over SFTP, and I'm looking at it. Now if we stick the code file in here, the password file in this directory, it would be accessible, from the web. Just like you can go to whatever.com/login.php or whatever.com/js/bootstrap.min.js, or whatever's in here. If I had the key in here, they could go to website/key.txt and then immediately be able to see it. So we're going to stick the key one directory up in the www folder. So this HTML folder is what's accessible, and anything inside of here is accessible to the outside internet. All of this stuff, and we want that to work. But in the case of the password, we only want it to be accessible to the server. We don't want anyone else to see it. So we can define it up in the www folder, which is not accessible by anyone else, and that's important. So I'm just going to create a new file, and I'll name it key.txt, and then I'm going to edit it, and I will go ahead and make up a key. Again, it can be whatever you want. So let's just say that the key is pogostick29dev. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to save that, and good, that just uploaded. So now I have key.txt, and that's going to contain the key that will have to match in order for everything to work. Now, let's go back over here, and where we have our define key to be key, what we're actually going to do is, instead of whatever that is, we're going to write file get contents. Inside, you're going to write /key.txt. Now, what this means is when it gets to this line, it's going to go find the file called key.txt. The dot means go up one directory. So if we're in the HTML folder, it's saying go up one directory to www, and then it's going to be called key.txt. So we're telling it exactly where that file is so that it knows where to look. And then file get contents will read the contents of that file into a string. So the global or the constant key will be equal to whatever the contents of that file is. In this case, it would be pogostick29dev, but whatever you write in there, that's what key would be. And of course, in our add, we have if not is set post key, or the key is not equal to the correct key, then we don't want to allow them to do it. If they don't specify a key or the key is wrong, we're not going to let them do anything. Let's just change this. Instead of doing die incorrect key, we're gonna just echo. Let's just echo key, and then do return. So it's gonna echo out the word key. And what we can do in the plugin, we can say if the word key is the response, then we can send out a message saying that this is an invalid key. So word key, and then return so that it'll stop. Because as soon as this doesn't work, we just want it to stop executing. And then let's update our get and our remove so that they will just say the word key and then return. And then we won't have to worry about it. Alright. Let's see. Now, let's just quickly take a look, because I want to make sure that we account for everything. So here's our form, then there's this, then we do a post to there. So here, this is a good example. When we do a post to add.php, we have the ID, the UID, and the reason. But right now this would not work because it doesn't have the key. And if it doesn't, it's just going to echo key and then stop working. So let's just copy this line, file get contents. Oh, I'm sorry, this is actually PHP, so what we'll do is we will say key, and then we're going to put in quotes, then we're going to do echo file get contents. And this looks really weird, but what this is going to do is the PHP will be evaluated first, and whatever the contents is will be stuck in there. It'll be in between these double quotes, so then it'll work. It will say key colon, and then in quotes, whatever the key is. Actually, I suppose that's a little bit dangerous, because if you look at the source of the page, you would be able to see the key completely exposed. So, you know what, never mind. That's probably not a very good idea. I think that what we want to do here is probably, with all of these, we want to make sure that the sender is the server, because if the sender is the server, the website, then we can allow it to happen. Give me 1 second while I get that done. Alright, so here's what we're going to do for this. Let's go first to our add.php. What we're going to do is we can figure out the IP address of the current server or the website that has BanManagement on it, and then we can figure out the IP address of the person who's connected, or the person who's accessing the script. And the easiest way to do this is we'll say if the accessor of the script is the same as the hoster of the script, then we can assume that it's just something like ban.php, ban accessing this add.php. And I think that makes sense. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to say if $_server, host ADDR is not equal to server request ADDR. It's not quite that. Let me just check what it was because I wrote it down here. Remote ADDR and server. Okay. So it's going to be remote and server. So what this is saying is if the remote server address is not equal to this server address, then we want to check that. So we're going to say if, so we'll just do it like this. So if the remote server address is equal to that, then let's just, actually, I'm going to restructure this a little bit. Let's just do it like this just to make sure. Okay, oops, if that, okay, down there, good. So what it's going to say is if the two addresses are not the same, so in that case, you know, if the if the website is not accessing itself, if it's a person who is looking at BanManagement or a bucket server, then that'll be fine. And theoretically, if both of these are run on the same exact server, you wouldn't even need to use the key. But then if someone on a different server tried to access yours, then the key would be important. So we definitely want that. So we're saying that if the two addresses are not the same, then it's some other system. And in that case, then we're going to check to see if the keys are correct before we let them do anything. And let's just stick this everywhere else. And we just have to tab everything over, including that. Okay, so that's good. And that right there, let's just tab that over. Okay, so now we have that there. So something like here, where you call add.php, you don't need to give it the key because it's originating from the same server as that's actually hosting it. So we're just going to allow that. We're going to say that's fine. Alright, so that is this side. We now have key gets defined in the API.php to whatever the contents of that file is, and that should be good. Now let's go over to the bucket plugin side. So here is the bucket plugin right here, and yeah, we have all of these different things. We are going to do, let's go ahead and make our config.yml, and that's going to contain a couple of different things. So we'll call this config.yml. Yes. And let's take a look and see what we have, because I believe when it goes to connect, yeah, it goes to the --/API. So we're going to have it read the data from the file and then do that. So the information that we need is the IP address and the key. And that's all that we need in order to make a good connection. So in the config, we're going to have IP, we'll just say localhost by default. We want to have some kind of a default. Okay. We want to have some kind of a default, but we'll just say localhost, which is the local server, assuming that they're both running on the same server. But that would, of course, be changed. And then the key, we'll just set it to be key by default. Of course, you wouldn't want to use key as your key, but we want to just have defaults just to have them. So let's go ahead and add private string IP and key. And then here we're going to read them in. So let's just say get config.options.copy defaults true. So we'll have it copy the defaults and then save the config. I think that only does it if it doesn't exist already. And then this .ip equals get config.get string for IP. This .key equals get config.get string key. And that's all that we really need. It's going to load these two values in, and now we just have to go down here to the bottom and say, so instead of that, it's going to be IP. So it'll go to, you know, whatever the IP is /API, and then whatever the API is .php. And we, of course, need the key. Okay, so this will write out the data, and then it will flush. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that the key is written correctly, so hang on 1 second. So this is pretty easy. All we have to do is, when we do something like UUID is equal to whatever, all that we want to do is say args plus equals, or no, I'm going to say args is equal to, and we'll put this at the front, we'll say key equals key, and then we'll do the and then plus args. So whatever args is, we're going to stick in front of it. We're going to say key equals whatever the key is and args. So in the case of player login, it'll say key equals key and UUID equals whatever the UUID is. And I believe that should work for everything. So we want to make sure that the key gets stuck in front, and then the key will be passed, whatever the key is in our configuration. Alright, I suppose we might as well try this out. Let's just make sure that this is actually set up to export. I believe it is, because we tested it before, but let's just make sure. Okay. Let me just quickly check and see. I think if we want to make it, it should, I believe I have build on make checked, so that should build it for us, the new jar. Alright, I think that worked. And cool. So now here's our Minecraft server plugins. Here's the BanManagement thing, last modified right now. Good, so that worked. Let's just go ahead. I need to type in my information, my password to the thing here, and then we will try it out and see if it's able to send and receive the data. So we have the project running now in terminal, and it did start up without any kind of error. One really quick thing is I was wrong when I was talking about the remote server stuff. I realize now it didn't make too much sense. I was testing it out, and if I access the website from my browser, just because the site itself is calling, add or whatever, it still doesn't work. So I removed that. What we're going to do is, I think we have user accounts implemented, but once we work on the GUI, or not the GUI, once we implement the user accounts into the interface, we're going to have it check to see if the user is currently logged in, then we will allow it to happen, or if the key, so instead of a key, if the user is logged in, then we'll let it happen. But in this case, no. Okay, so we have that good. I have this right here, and let's go back over. I have the server running right here, and we'll go ahead and try it out. Now, let's go over here for a second and see. Here's the BanManagement folder. Here's the config. We'll just open that in text edit, and you'll see the IP is localhost and the key is key, which is exactly what we were expecting. Now, let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to try to ban PogoStick29, and we get an error. It says right here, file not found, localhost API add.php, because what happened is by default it's set to be localhost, and when you have localhost, it tries to connect to the local computer and then access this, and you get an ugly thing, and then it still thinks that it ended up working. So what we want to do is, in the case of banned, okay, right here. So when we try to connect to it and we catch that exception, let's see if it's there, or it might be at the other one. So here at line 95. So I think that's actually the farther one. No, I'm sorry, it is. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to just add catch file not found exception E, and if we catch a file not found exception, then we're going to put on an error. So instead of a stack trace that's really confusing because they're wondering what this file is that we're trying to access, we're going to send message in red, and then we'll just say BanManagement's config file is not configured properly. We'll just say that. So if a file not found exception happens, we'll do that, and then we'll say return, or return true. So in the case of this error that we get, if they specify something wrong, then we're going to send them a message instead of crashing like that. And we'll just stick that on all of these things, just like that. We'll just call that EX and e.getPlayer, I suppose. You know, maybe you don't want to send them send the player a message, but we'll just do it here so we can make sure that that works, of course. So I'm going to hit the make button and reload. Good. So let's try banning again. And this time it says BanManagement's config file is not configured properly. So instead of getting that terrible error, we get something that actually makes sense. So let's go to the config file and let's set it up. I have here BanManagement website. So I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to stick it in there. And we don't want anything else, just the numbers like that. And the key is still wrong. The key is still key, so this shouldn't work. I'm going to reload, and that's fine. So let's try banning. And that time it said, you have banned post 629, for you have been banned. Okay. And that clearly, let's see if it actually worked. Okay, so it didn't work. All of these are from February. It's March right now, so it did not add, which is good, but we want to make sure that it sends them the error. So let's see where it would do that, where it says here. So we do this, and I think what we want to do, so that connects to it, and then it just says connect. So we do the connection, so then we connect to it, and the get input stream, but we want to actually read it. So like right here, this will read in the data, and we want to make sure that we do that everywhere. So that'll be the same thing, connection.getInputStream, but this time it's going to read in the line of data and then print it out. And I think we want to just do this everywhere, like that. So then we have a buffered reader, and it will read in that line. There we already have the buffered reader, and I think those are the only 3 places where it happens. So now it'll actually read in the data, and instead of, you know, because it was actually printing out data, it was printing out key, but we never got it. So let's reload after making, and now let's try banning again. This time it does say the word key, so what that means is it connected with the wrong key. So it said key, but it still says you've banned Pogo629. So what we want to do is we want to change the output. So that'll be right here. So instead of this, we want to take all of that and move it into here. And we're going to say if data.equals key, then we're going to send a message saying that the key was wrong and that it didn't work. Yeah, otherwise, we're going to actually do the banning. Or, it's not going to do the banning, but we're going to tell them that it did the banning. Because before it was saying that it did, but it actually didn't. And we're not going to print out data because we don't really want to. And let's just copy this saying the config file is not configured properly, because that's still true. It's not configured for that reason. And let's just stick this everywhere. So instead of printing out data, we're going to do that. And this time all this does is send a message saying that you've unbanned the person, so we're going to stick that in the else. Good. And then finally, let's just copy this. And what we're going to do with the player login is we're going to say if it's a key, I think we want to kick the player, because if for whatever reason the website, maybe it's DDoS, hit offline or whatever, I think it would be safer to kick the player. This could be made a configurable option, but let's just do this. So we're going to disallow for results dot kick banned, and the message is just going to be this saying it's not configured properly. Because we don't want to let them on if we can't ensure that they are correct. But then we don't need an else, because in that case, it'll just allow them. So if there is an invalid key, it's going to kick them and tell them that the config file is not configured. Otherwise, and actually in this case, we don't want to allow them on either if it's not. So we're just going to do the exact same thing. So if it's unable to verify that the player is allowed to be on, it's going to disallow them from connecting and give them that message so that they at least know why. Oh, that's the last one. For the check ban, we want to fix that. So we want to say, oh, I'm sorry, let's just delete that. So we have, oh wait, I messed this up. So unban, I messed up the data. So it's just unban, so let's add with UUID and okay. So then this is going to be unban with just the UUID, and this is going to be check ban with the UUID. So we almost messed that up. And then in the case of check ban, if it's a key, we're going to tell them that it didn't work. Otherwise, we're going to send the message. For now, let's just send them data just so that we can look at it. And I guess we could probably format that a little bit better later. And then in this case, we still have it doing get with the UID, and then it reads in the data. Okay, so I think that should theoretically work. So let's make, and I'm going to just start Minecraft up so that we can make sure that I'm able to log in or not log in. And let's just delete these. Oh, that's right, it's going to say key. Alright, so we'll do that in here. So unban pogostick29 first, and in that case it's, oh yeah, that's right, it still says key, so we already know that. Actually, it's, did it not build, or did I not reload? Because it's supposed to, here, let's just build again. I think it's just that I didn't reload, but let's see. So I'm going to try unbanning. So there you go. Now I did unban. It says the config file is not configured properly because the key is wrong. So let's make it the right key. Pogostick29 dev. This is a really long video. Sorry about that, guys. Now we have the correct key. So let's try unbanning. And in that case, it still says the config file is not configured properly. That's interesting. Okay, so, and those are all still there. So clearly, that's not working. Alright, let's do a little bit of debugging. So in the case of unban, that would go into remove. And let's just, instead of echoing key, let's just say, let's just first echo is set for post key. So what will happen is it'll just tell us whether or not the key is set. So let's see. So I hit unban. Oh, it's not going to tell us, of course. So let's just quickly, we're just doing a little bit of debugging here, and I know this is a long video. I'm sorry about that. Data. Whatever. System.out.println data. Make reload and unban. And it still says the config file is not configured properly. What happened? It's supposed to say whatever data is. It's really weird. Oh, I guess it's failing earlier or something. I wonder if it's the domain part of it. I guess it would be. So let's just see. So let's see if that's why, because maybe the domain thing is still not working. So let's try unban. Yeah, so it looks like it's the file not found exception. So let's see why let's see what exactly it is, because it should theoretically be working. So, what's it trying to do? File not found exception. It's going there, and then unban.php, and that looks right. So let's see. It's at line 123 where the issue is occurring. So that's this. For connection.getInputStream. So we're trying to read back, but it's saying file not found exception. That's very strange. Let's just make sure really quickly. Theoretically, if I go to this in my browser, it should... Oh, well, I guess that's why. It's not unban, it's called remove. Alright, I guess that must be it. Oops, remove. Theoretically, it should work now. I guess it wasn't a huge issue. Okay, good. So unban, and it says you have unbanned. So I guess that works. Let's just remove that there, and then we'll stop printing that stack trace. And that time, looks like it worked. Let's just fix the PHP. So it will now echo key if it doesn't work. Good, good, good. And now if I reload, alright, so let's see. Unban pogo stick 29. Says key. Then it says BanManagement's config file. Is this still the old version? Because it's not supposed to be saying key. I feel like sometimes this make doesn't work correctly. Or maybe I just have to reload the server more. Still saying it's not configured. Okay. Let's take a look at the config file. And that looks fine. And it's saying that the file is not configured correctly. Let's just stick that back. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just debug this a little bit on my own for a few minutes. And okay, so that didn't do anything. So I'm going to debug this for a few minutes, and then I'll just quickly let you guys know what exactly happened. And then that'll be it. I know this is a very long video, but thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be right back. Cool, so I figured out what the issue is. It's actually kind of funny. Here's what the problem was. This was originally /key.txt, which meant go up one directory and then look for it. Well, this is an API folder, so it went up one directory to here, and then it tried to find it, and it couldn't, so it was just empty. We want it to go up two directories from API to the HTML directory, then up to that www directory that we saw before, and then look for the key. So that was one problem. The key was not working. It was not showing up. And that was that problem. And then here, it's just the exact same. One other thing that's important is if no data is returned, and you're trying to say if data.equals key, well, if nothing is echoed out, then data would be null, and then you would get a null pointer exception. So you have to add that data is not equal to null check, let's see, we need to do that right here. Data is not equal to null. So before you use data, you have to see, because there's a chance that it could be null, which means that no data came back. So, or I'm sorry, that's not what we want. We want to say, because if data is null, then it's going to be an error. So we're going to say, what's a good way to do this? Let's just say, or no, I guess we do want that. Because if data is null, then it'll just, yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. Because if data is null, then it'll just immediately go, oh no, I'm sorry, because we want data to be that. So let's just say if data is null or data is equal to key. So I think what that'll do is it'll say that if data is null, then we want to just immediately say that it's not configured. If data is key, we want to say it's not configured. But I believe if both of those are false, then it should go down there. And I believe that should work. We'll of course try it out in just a second, so let's just change that there. Data is null, or that, because I believe it'll check data to see if it's null before it actually calls the equals method. Now let's just do that here. Data is null, or that. Okay, one other quick thing was in remove, we originally had a header thing, whatever. We had something where it said header going back to some certain page, but we don't want to have that because that does not work well. It echoes out the page or something like that, or the first line in that was giving me problems, so I just removed it from there. And then here we have all that, so let's just build this for a second. And here is the empty. I'm going to reload it. Oh, that's right. Let me just stick my password in. So let's take a look. And I was just doing some testing. Let's go ahead and ban Pogostick29. It says you have banned them for whatever. And if I reload, you'll see that it is indeed here for you have been banned. If I do unban Pogostick29, it'll say you've unbanned, and then it goes away. Very good. Let's just make sure. I'm going to change the key to be something that is clearly incorrect. And let's try to ban again. It says the config file is not configured properly. It doesn't give any kind of stack trace, so that's really nice. I'm glad that works. Let's just reload again with the correct. Maybe I'll put in the wrong IP address, and we'll just see that. So we'll try banning again. I suppose it's actually going to try connecting that IP address, but oh, I didn't mean to stop the server. Okay, so we'll just not do that, but I suppose we could add some kind of a timeout. I think it has one by default so that it won't try forever, but obviously if it takes too long, you'd know that it's not working. So we clearly know that that works. Let's just make sure that the player is in fact banned. So I'm going to ban myself, not 39, 29. Oh, I suppose that was because it couldn't find the UUID. So maybe we'll handle for that. But there it says that I've been banned. So I'm going to try hitting play. And I'm going to connect to this server, and it should theoretically just kick me out for the exact reason. No. Alright, looks like it let me in. Okay, so let's figure out why that happened. So I'm going to connect, and then it does say UUID of Pogostick29 is that, oh no, I'm sorry, that's part of, okay, so let's see. So we do register the events, and then down here, where was my event? An event handler here, player login event. Well, I suppose it was because, oh, I guess in the case of get, it was just saying as long as it's not key, it'll allow me. But get should actually, let's see what get actually gives us. So where's get? It does the JSON encode. Okay, so we will need to actually read that data. Oh, that's one thing that we needed was for that, and then also for check ban, we needed to handle that. So right now it will let them in, but that's only because we haven't parsed whatever data we get back from get. So that will be something in another video. I think we have to end up using JSON or something for that. And there are still a couple more things, but now we have this key system which took 39 minutes, okay, but now we have a key system that works, and BanManagement is theoretically more secure. More secure. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.